Well, it's 4:44 right on the spot, so um, it's an opportunity for us to get together again like we did last week. And I have Tammy Ann with me.
Hi, everybody. Welcome.
And Tammy Ann and I had a very interesting morning today. We actually met at 1 o'clock, didn't we?
Yes.
And Tammy Ann and I, she had scrambled eggs. And I had an omelet. And we had some good conversation. At any rate, I was gone last weekend, and some of you might have thought that I was going to visit Joshua, but I actually did go back to Boston to a service. My wife's aunt, 89 years old, had a transition of a soul. She was actually married to her father's brother, so she was her aunt-in-law, and we had a celebration of her life, and it was a wonderful experience. It was a reunion of people from all over the country. We had some came from Los Gatos, California, friends and relatives, and some came from Washington, D.C. So it was a wonderful, wonderful gathering of people that remembered her and that loved her. We got in on a Sunday around 4:30 in the afternoon in Logan Airport. There was a wake that started at 4 in the morning to 4 in the afternoon to 8 in the evening. So we got to the wake about 5:15. One of her cousins met us at the airport, my wife's cousins. And we got to the wake and got to spend 2.5 hours there. And then we went to Chinese food. And I spoke my usual Chinese, ni hao ma, ni go yang ga, and impressed the waiters and had a red eye. I had to teach them how to make a red eye. They'd never heard of a red eye before. At any rate, we had a great experience. The next morning I called Linda on the phone, and Linda got a phone message I got into a voicemail because she wasn't in. So I told her I'd call her back later in the afternoon. That would have been Monday. We went to the funeral service that afternoon, and it was a typical Catholic service with a casket. I have to tell you very candidly, when I was at the wake, I never looked at the body. I never looked at her aunt's body because I knew her spirit wasn't in it. Every time I went to look at it, every time I started to walk over to it, it was like I hit a wall, literally. But I could feel her energy in other parts of the room, so I went instead to the other parts of the room where her energy was. And I shared that with her son. And he said he totally understood. He'd read my book. He understood where I was coming from. He said, Nick, I really appreciate it. He said, I totally agree with you. He said, but, tradition's tradition. And I found it odd, people standing next to her body in an open casket, and her body was laying there, and they were talking, having conversations next to her about what they had for dinner last night or where they were going afterwards. I just thought the whole thing was odd. It was like, well, I'll never get used to having an open casket. Did you ever have that? Did you ever go to a wake, Catholic wake, where they have an open casket?
Yes.
How do you feel when you see the body laying there?
Well, I was 30 years ago, so I was a lot different than I am now.
Well, how do you think you'd feel now?
I mean, I never go to grave sites and all that stuff because I know they're not there.
Yeah.
And I don't even like thinking about the fact that was the last place I saw that was in that ground, in the hole in the ground. I just don't
Could you
like
rather
it.
think of them the last time you saw them when they were
At dinner or something.
when the spirit was still in the body?
Yeah, exactly.
I don't believe in funerals. I hate to go to funerals.
Well, when my mom passed, I gave her a celebration of life party, and I told her before she died or passed that that's what I was going to do, and she said, "Oh, lovely." So that's what we did. We had a big party. It was great.
Well, that's why I think cremation. Anyway, why do you want to take a body that's nothing in it and physically go through a ceremony and putting it into the ground? They think it's going to be born again. When I was younger, I didn't understand what the word born again. I actually thought they meant that the skeletons would have come out of it. No, did you ever think that? I swear that's what I thought when I was about 12, 13 years old. I thought, Mariana, oh, she's not here anymore. I thought born again, they thought the skeletons actually came out of the caskets. If anybody else thought that, I know it sounds crazy. If anybody else thought that, raise your hand, please. Raise your hand. See, there's some other people.
Walking in the living dead.
I didn't know. That's what I thought born again meant.
I'm sure.
I'll bet a lot of people think that. Anyway,
when I'm born again, I come back onto this planet in another body. So I don't know.
Well, that's what Joshua meant when he said born again. He was talking about
Yeah, coming back in
reincarnation.
another body, another time.
Didn't I talk about that last week?
I don't know.
When I said that's what Joshua meant when he said born again, he meant to be born again into a new body.
That's what he meant.
Oh, yeah, we had that discussion on the site. What do people think born again means?
Yeah, we were talking about it.
You
asked. And
I think it finally evolved to people saying that that's what they thought it was. Some said they thought it was regaining your faith again and reconfirming your faith.
Right.
And it doesn't. It means being born again means literally being born again, you're reincarnated. I think Randy was the one who thought it meant to reaffirming your faith. Well, several people said
there's several people because that's what the church teaches.
Right, Bonnie said that's what her church's teaches
right,
also.
That's what they
Bonnie,
teach.
get them straightened out, will you? I mean, seriously, it's not difficult. Being born again means reincarnated.
Well, think about it, Nick.
What?
Because I was raised in other churches too. Born again, it means you're choosing to follow the faith. It can mean that you're choosing to follow Christ. When you're born in the beginning, you don't have a choice. Well, you do, but a lot of people don't believe that. So if you're born again, I think it means, to me, it would mean that they're choosing to make that. They're making their own personal choice.
But that's only after you're already born again. So you're born again twice then. You're born again when you're reincarnated, and now you're saying you're born again a second time.
True.
Why can't you say another word for the second time, saying reconfirming your faith rather than being born again?
Well, you could, I guess.
Well, it is a reconfirmation. It's not a birth.
Well, it's a
born means birth.
It's a spiritual birth.
Okay, I'm not going to argue with you. You're very argumentative today. I've been putting up with her all day. Almost. Anyway.
It's just my opinion.
Okay, I did call Linda in the afternoon. Linda, I was about 10 minutes from New Hampshire, where I was in Tewksbury, or someplace like that, Tewksbury. Linda was someplace else, also just from the New Hampshire border, but she was totally east of me, so because she was closer to the Atlantic Ocean, so we were about an hour apart, even though both of us were about 10 minutes from the New Hampshire border, which was about an hour's drive. About a half hour's drive to Boston, 45 minutes. So I was about a 45-minute drive. I would have been northwest of Boston, and she would have been on the North Shore, which is directly north of Boston. So we were probably about the same distance from Boston, but there was about an hour separating us from east to west. Does that make sense? I just described?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I had a great conversation with Linda. We talked probably about an hour. I thought initially we were going to talk about 10 minutes, but we got off into a lot of different tangents. We talked about Arton Ray, how she one time was with the J Message group and had some major difficulties with them. I told her I got thrown out of the J Message group, literally thrown out. How they terminated me from the group because of my. Anyway, I know you don't know what I'm talking about, but Linda and I had some conversation about that. Mariana knows what I'm talking about because she used to be a member of the J Message group also, until they threw her out too. She's going to tell me, she's going to send me an email saying, you didn't throw me out, Nick, I quit. Anyway, I think they were ready to throw her out. But Linda and I apparently had some very common interests, not only geographically, the fact that she lives in Massachusetts and I live in Massachusetts, but some of the experiences that we had with the J Message group and with the people involved in it. She remembered, in fact, when we were on a common email address and how they were starting to get upset at me and angry at me because I tried to be their teacher and they said I could not be their apostle. I had to be a co-disciple. They said, who do you think you are that you're trying to tell us spiritual messages? You're no different than we are. You come and sit in the classroom with us. You're nothing. You're a disciple like the rest of us. You're a pupil. You're not a teacher. And I said, adios, mothers. I said adios to them. And I came back and just confined myself to the site. That's exactly what happened. Do you remember that period of time?
I don't know what you're talking about, actually.
Oh, okay. Then let's move on to something else. I want to move on to a little while ago, Barbara Briggs posted an email and she asked you to go to a video and her post was kept in moderation for quite a while until Marianne and I had an opportunity to discuss it. We decided we'd go ahead and post it, allow you to read it. But where that video took you, it took you to a site of a man who had a half-hour, 30-minute show, television show, in which he was quoting Paul. He was saying that Paul was basically saying that anybody that didn't believe the teachings of Joshua would curse. There would be a curse on anybody that didn't believe in Joshua's teachings. And he was adamant, the preacher was on television, that this is true, that they would be cursed. That they would be cursed, and there's evidence of that. To prove it, he quoted Paul saying about 4 or 5 times there'd be a curse, they should be cursed. And Barbara is asking, did Paul actually say those things? And the answer is, first of all, Barbara, I'm glad that you, first of all, have to obviously accept the fact that I maybe am the reincarnation of Paul, where previously in emails you claimed I wasn't. So perhaps you're having a change of heart, or you wouldn't be asking a question like that. But in reference to the issue itself, did Paul ever say there'd be a curse on everybody, on anybody who didn't believe in the teachings of Joshua, which means my teachings, our teachings? Are other people cursed if they don't believe what you and I believe in? And the answer is obviously not. Obviously the answer is no. Why would we ever curse another person because they believe in us? We know everybody's got the gift of free will. Paul knew that 2,000 years ago. The word, instead, he criticized people for not understanding the truth. So whenever you see the word criticized, where it says Paul criticized,
cursed.
Paul cursed these people. Thank you. I knew you were here for a reason.
Yeah, it's my job.
Whenever you heard a place in the New Testament, in the Gospels, where Paul says that I am cursing people who do not believe the teachings of Joshua, he was saying that I'm critical of people who do not believe in it. The church changed the word critical to curse. They did that same thing also, if you recall, when they say that Paul persecuted Jews in Jerusalem who didn't believe in the teachings. And I said, no, Paul criticized them. He didn't persecute them. He criticized them. They changed the word persecute. They changed the word criticize and say persecute. So the answer to the question is Barbara Biggs. No, Paul did not say that. Paul criticized them, not cursed them, and said there'd be a curse on them, just as he did not persecute the Jews, the Christians too. They weren't Christians.
There weren't any Christians in.
He did not persecute the Jewish people 2,000 years ago who had accepted Joshua as Messiah. He criticized them. They evidently don't know the word criticize. In one place they use term criticize and persecute, and now they're turning around and criticizing, use the word criticize and say curse. Do I have to go any further explanation on it? Okay. Barbara, I appreciate the question. And Barbara, we pray for the day that you can come back and join us as one of us with love and compassion, and accept us for who we are as we accept you who you are. And we don't criticize you, and so please don't criticize us. You're welcome back if you you're welcome back, Barbara, if you can accept the fact that we extend our love to you, and we don't want to shut you off if you're willing to come back, and apparently you've made some good progress. The fact you're willing to acknowledge that indeed perhaps my spirit and soul did live 2,000 years ago, or you wouldn't be asking that question. So that's a really good start. Now let's go down to something else. I want to talk about Pam's letter. Pam, you said that you haven't been on the line for Site for a while. No, you haven't seen any of the shows, so I'm assuming you're watching us today. And you want to spend a little more. You want me to spend a little more time with the question that you have regarding. And you don't know where to post it, but you posted it in the right place. How do I feel about? Have I read the Gnostic Gospels at Nag Hammadi? First of all, let me say that Nag Hammadi was a mountainside, I believe in Syria, where there were four goatsmen, one of them named Abdul Jabbar, who found these huge urns in a cave, and within these urns were the Gnostic Gospels. Did you know that story?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, that's how they were found. They were in these four earthen vases that were about 5 feet tall, and within those vases, in these caves, on the mountainside of Nag Hammadi, one of the particular shepherds, whose name was Jabbar Abdul, found this earthen jar and found the Gnostics Gospels in there. One from Philip, there was one from Mary Magdalene, Mary of Magdala, and one from Thomas. And you want to know, what do I think of them? Do they resonate with anything, especially, of course, the Pauline ones? That's where you lost me. What do you mean by the Pauline ones? Do you know what you mean by that?
I think what Paul wrote.
Paul didn't write on the Gnostic. His writings weren't in there.
No.
No, Paul didn't write any Gospels.
No.
So I don't know. I don't know how to answer your question, but in reference to the Gnostic Gospels themselves, other than the question about the Pauline ones, yes, they resonate with me. I think that they're 10 times more accurate than the four Gospels that were selected by Constantine in the 4th century, which are the Gospels of John, Mark, Luke, and who's the fourth one? Thomas?
No.
Oh, come on. John, Luke, Mark.
Matthew. John, Matthew,
yeah.
Luke, and John.
Now, regarding those four Gospel writers, I got to share this with you. Mark was only a little boy when Joshua died, when Joshua had his transition on his cross.
That's correct.
He was just a little boy.
Yeah.
In fact, he had a healing on his leg, if you recall. He was just a little boy, so he wouldn't have known all those things unless he heard them from other people. Luke was a Greek. He never been to Jerusalem in his life. So how would he have any knowledge of the sayings of Joshua? How would Luke have any knowledge of the sayings of Joshua when he never lived in Jerusalem in his life and he was a Greek? He wasn't even Jewish. In fact, he was anti-Semitic, to be truthful with you. If you read Acts, you can see he says those Jews, those this, those are that. He actually was anti-Semitic. Mm-hmm. Did you know that? Mm-hmm. Read Acts and you'll see he refers to those Jews did this, those Jews did that. Because he wasn't Jewish like the others. He never lived in Jerusalem. He followed Paul around. Paul made a second trip to Damascus. There was 2 Damascus back then at that time. There was a big, largest town, Damascus, or a small one. And Paul made a second trip to Damascus. Luke all of a sudden heard him speak and started following him around. It says that right in the Gospel. I'm not making this up.
I believe you.
And he followed Paul every place he went. And Paul didn't particularly like Luke. But Luke ended up writing the Gospel, which obviously he didn't know what damn thing he was writing about since he wasn't there. He did know about the Acts because he talks about his following Paul and where Paul went and how he traveled around with Paul wherever Paul went. But he had no idea what he's talking about in the Gospel. So the Gospel of Luke is not a Gospel. It's either things he heard secondhand from other people. Why am I mentioning this?
I don't know.
No, there had to be a reason why. Oh.
Tell him that story.
Oh, I was talking about the 4 Gospel writers. So we had John. John couldn't read or write, so he didn't write his Gospel. He could not. He was a fisherman from along the Sea of Galilee, from the town of Tiberias. 90% of the people couldn't read or write. Only 10% of the population in the Roman Empire was literate. They were called scribes. The only ones that were capable of writing were the scribes. A scribe meant a person that was capable of writing. And only about 10% of the population. John was not a scribe. There's no place in the Gospel they call him John the Scribe.
Well, he could have told a scribe to write it.
What do you think, they took shorthand back in those days? Or a tape recorder?
Sure,
John,
why not?
John the stories were all told by rote, R-O-T. It's not a person's name. They're told by rote. And people remember the stories, and eventually somebody along down the line wrote the story and said, here's the Gospel according to John, saying that we understood. John said this 20 years ago, and that's why there were so many mistakes in the Gospels. Because if you had 10 people in here and I whispered something in one ear, you turn around and whisper in the person next to them. They whisper. By the time it gets to the 10th person, there's no way you'd have the same story.
Right.
And that's basically what happened back then. They kept repeating the story of the Gospel of John, and by the time it was written 20 years later, it didn't have any resemblance of what John actually might have told.
I agree.
Thank you for the confirmation.
That's why I don't take that much note in the Bible.
Okay. So at any rate, I do believe that the Gospels, the Gnostic Gospels, were much more accurate than the other four Gospels, because Mary would have had a closer relationship to Joshua.
Absolutely.
Thomas would have had a closer relationship because Thomas actually lived in Jerusalem and he was a scribe. Did you know that? Mm-hmm. He was a tax collector. That's what he did for a living. He was a scribe and he lived in Jerusalem, where John was a fisherman.
Yeah, I knew that part.
So he wasn't capable of writing and reading. And who's the other one we said? Matthew.
We talk about Matthew.
Well, Matthew came from Jerusalem also. He wasn't a fisherman, so maybe he was capable of writing. But certainly Mark wouldn't. Mark was just a child. John couldn't read or write. He wasn't a scribe. And Luke wasn't even there. So only one out of the four, which means the Gospel.
Yeah, actually wrote it, maybe.
Yeah. So the Gospel of Matthew would have been the most accurate of the four.
Well, don't they say according to John, according to, like you said, it's just the stories that got handed down.
Right. It's not them that wrote it.
Right.
They try to give the impression when John wrote the Gospel, John didn't write.
It's according
to him. It got passed down to about 10 generations afterwards.
Right.
So your answer question, Linda, is that I don't know what the Pauline, we have to get into something more serious now. We're going to go on a meditation. Mariana wanted us to hold a meditation to the end. And Spirit told me to do the meditation now, at the beginning. So I am going to do the meditation now. I'm going to turn off the light. And I want you to slow yourself down and live in the moment. I want you to shut off all outside sounds. So the only sound you can hear is the sound of my voice. I want you to breathe deeply and slowly. I want you to take a deep breath, a very, very deep breath, deep, deep inside. And let it slowly out of your lungs. And the only sound I want you to listen to is the sound of my voice. I want you to shut off all outside sounds. Okay, come closer to me. Come closer to me. Tammy.
Yes.
Come closer. Get on the screen. I'll take care of you.
Okay.
Okay. I want you to shut off all outside sounds. So the only sound you can hear is the sound of my voice. And you're breathing deeply and slowly. I want you to visualize that you're standing on the top of the stairs of a stairway that's very wide. It's 20 feet wide, and the stairs are made out of marble, white marble. And there's a golden railway. There's a golden rail, a handrail on its left-hand side. And there's 20 steps. And you're slowly going to walk down those 20 steps, one at a time. Step 20, 19, 18, 17, 16, 15, 14, 13, 12. Closer and closer to the bottom. You see the beautiful forest pathway. 11, 10, 9, 8, 7. You're almost there at the bottom. 6, 5, 4. You're almost at the bottom of the stairs. 3, 2, 1. You're now at the bottom of the stairs. And there's a pathway in front of you. And the pathway has been made from hundreds of years of deers and animals walking between the trees as they go to a little river, a brook that was about 50 yards away. And they're walking now through the forest. You're walking through the forest, following the footpaths that have been made by hundreds of years of deers and animals, creating a pathway through the forest to reach the brook, the little river. And you're weaving your way through the pathway. And every so often a branch hits you in the face and you push it away with your hand and you smile. And you go further and further into the woods. And you're beginning to see the light. You see the light at the end of the pathway because there's a little beach that runs along the brook. And you start walking towards that light. It's 10 steps from you. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And there's a little sandy beach along the brook. When you take a left turn, you can hear the babbling of the brook and you can hear the animals, the little birds in the background of the forest tweeting. And the brook is on your right and you can hear the brook gently running, flowing gently. And every so often a bird's voice, a loud bird, so you can hear cocking in the background. And you're walking along that beach. And as you're walking along the beach, you look up in the sky, and all there is a couple of white clouds. You think how miraculous and beautiful day it is. The skies are so blue, and how they blend in with the blueness of the creek or the river. And now you see a man coming toward you. And the man's coming toward you. And the man, as you see him, you can see he has long hair. And he's got beautiful hair. His hair is brown with streaks of gold. And he has a short beard to a point that's only about 6, 7 inches below his chin. And his skin is bronzed from the sunlight. And he's gracefully walking toward you. As you approach him, you recognize it as Joshua. And he smiles as you approach him, and the two of you hug each other as two old friends. And he pushes you slightly backwards and holds his hand at each of your two shoulders. And he looks deep into your eyes with that beautiful smile and says, I've missed you, but I've always been with you. I've never left you, even when you can't see me. I am by your side, watching out for you. And you feel a great deal of comfort and a great joy as your heart sings. And you feel so grateful for having the opportunity to see your brother who comes to you not only not in flesh, and you realize he's actually a light body. And he's wearing a white robe, thin robe, and the wind is blowing. His robe is flowing in the breeze. And you say, Joshua, I have thought of you often, and I've missed you, but I know that you're always in my life. And for that, I'm so grateful. And he smiles at you, that beautiful smile that he has. And he says to you, it's time for you to go back. It's time for you to return. But I'll always be with you. And you very reluctantly turn around and start walking back while Joshua's standing there, watching you with this beautiful smile on his face. As you get further and further away, you turn to him, and he waves to you, and you wave back. And then you continue walking with both joy and sadness in your heart. Sadness because you are leaving his presence, but joy knowing that he's always with you, and always is with you, and always will be with you. And then you come to the woods again. When you start walking through the woods, same direction you came from, along the pathway where the animals, the deers, had made over 100 years. And you start walking through this winding little area between the trees. And slowly, you eventually come to the stairway. A beautiful stairway that's about 10 feet wide. The steps are made of marble. And now the handrail of gold is on your right-hand side rather than your left. And you start walking up the stairs. 20 steps. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, higher and higher. 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. You're almost at the top. Back again to where you started. 18, 19, 20, and you're home again. Back on the site. You okay?
Mm-hmm.
And here we are. Did you envision going through the forest?
Yes, I love the forest.
Did you walk along? Did you walk downstairs?
Uh-huh.
You didn't trip, but you saw the golden steps with the golden
It
railing.
reminded me of the stairs on the Titanic. You know, they have that white stairway and he's up at the top.
No. Oh, yes, right. Anyway, you were with Joshua?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I didn't go as deep as last time. I knew I had to keep an eye on you.
Yeah, you kept.
We had to keep an eye on each other.
I kept going under it. I kept.
I
forgetting.
know.
several times I forgot I was on the site, and I was just
I didn't let
I
myself
was
go.
living in the illusion or the reality of the meditation.
Last time I went very deep and I got very emotional after the show, and I knew I couldn't do that today, so I didn't.
You know, 4 or 5 times you caught me. I
Yeah.
appreciate that. Or I was going to just go into total silence.
I know.
At any rate, the other subject I want to talk about was a subject that we talked about on the site, and we were talking about ego. And living in your soul mind. And I told you that one of the things about when you live in the soul mind, you can't, as I live in the soul mind, I can't be insulted. If a person wants to say, well, Nick is crazy, or Nick is BS, or Nick is this, it doesn't bother me because I live in my soul mind. Names don't bother, calling me names don't bother me. And remind me when I was a child. When I was a little child, my mother taught me, she said, Nick, always remember that sticks and stones can hurt your bones, but names can never harm you. And I didn't realize that was being implanted in me, that names can never harm me. And here I am, 70 years later, 74 years later, and names cannot harm me. People can call me any names they want, because that was inbred in me, even as a child, that stick and stones can hurt my bones, but names can never harm you. How many of you have been taught that when you were a child, but today you let names harm you? Yeah. When someone calls you a name, you forgot what your parents taught you. That sticks and stones can hurt your bones, but names can never harm you. You've forgotten that. And it's so true. Did your parents ever say that word to you?
No, names? But I heard it, and there's another one about rubber and glue.
No, what is that one? I haven't heard that one.
I'm rubber and you're glue, and everything you say bounces off of me and sticks to you.
I'm going to have to think about that one for a while. What the hell that means? Like whatever you call me goes back to you?
Yes. If you call me a bad name, it just goes right back to you.
Like an echo.
I don't know why kids pick on other kids. I never understood that. I've never understood why kids pick on other kids.
It's because of their ego. They're not living a soul mind.
You know, but I've never understood it.
When you're living a soul mind, you don't pick on somebody else. Because
I just can't imagine picking on somebody.
Well,
except you. It's fun to pick on you.
Mariana picks on me all the time.
That's fun. That's why.
Mariana was picking on me.
That's because you'll fight back.
You tell me not to do that. I'm sorry, Mariana. I'm joking. When I start coughing, that's my chakras closing on me. I can't talk. Mariana, I'm just joking, teasing you, dear. Mariana sometimes gives me advice which she totally believes is the right advice. Absolutely, totally. And I know in her heart and soul she believes with everything she believes in that she's doing it in my best interest, such as not wanting me to do the meditation early. And anyway, the point is that I know she's doing it with every good intention and doing it because she truly believes she's helping me, telling me the right thing. So I apologize, Mariana, if it came across as if I was criticizing you for you saying you're giving me a hard time when I know that's not what you're doing, that you're trying to help me. And you know I love you, Butler. You know I love you, Mariana. You know that. The site would not exist without you. Like what?
Yeah, that's true. I agree.
Okay.
I agree.
But they literally took, when I started saying that she gives me a hard time, they literally closed my voice chakra and I couldn't speak. I started coughing. That happens when I'm saying something I shouldn't be saying.
Good for them.
Yeah. I'm glad too, because if not,
keep you in line.
I get in a lot of trouble.
Yeah.
If I say things I'm not supposed to be saying. I have no filter on me. I have no filter on me. I know that. You know what a filter means to me. You know I have no filter.
I know. I'm an open book too. If you want to know something, I'll just tell you.
Wow.
My
problem is you use discretion who you say it in front of. My problem is I don't have any discretion what I say. We won't go there.
We won't go there.
I want to talk about forgiveness. We've been together now. Can you believe it? We've been together for almost 45 minutes.
Really?
Yeah, it's 5:24.
Oh my goodness. Did I fall asleep?
I don't know. We started at 4:44. 24 minutes went by plus 44 from 60.
I'm not all here. I'm sorry.
But I want to talk about forgiveness. The important thing to know when you forgive somebody, it doesn't mean you accept what they're doing as proper behavior. All it means is you're releasing any anger inside of you, any hostility. It's almost for your own benefit you forgive somebody.
It is for your benefit.
Because you're not condoning their behavior. Somebody did something wrong to you. You're not condoning their behavior. But you're saying, I forgive you, meaning that you're forgetting the fact that they hurt you because you want to go on with your life.
Right.
You're releasing any anger. You're cleansing the temple inside of you, which is God's temple, from any anger, from any hatred, from any resentment, because you are forgiving them so you don't have those negative emotions inside of you. Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely. My whole life's been about forgiveness. So.
Some people think forgiveness means that you're excusing them for their behavior.
No.
You're not. All you're saying is that I forgive you. What?
Sometimes it is. Maybe that isn't forgiveness, though. Maybe that's something else. I've forgiven people for acts against me, but I also understand, too, why they did what they did. So maybe it's partly both.
But yes, but isn't at the same time, you probably had anger towards them.
A lot of anger, right?
And by forgiving them, you release the anger.
That's just true.
That's the primary reason if you forgive somebody. Is to release the negative emotion inside of us.
It does.
And the same is true when someone, the same is true also, not only when you forgive them, but forgiving yourself.
Yeah.
It's so important to forgive yourself when you do something wrong.
I think that's harder.
It is harder.
I think it is.
But the reason it's so important to forgive yourself is because by forgiving yourself, it gives you the opportunity to live in the now and not live in the past.
Yeah, I know.
Because every time you feel you did something wrong that needs forgiveness, you're talking about something that happened in the past. And we've talked about how to live in the now, how to live in the moment. And by living in the now and living in the moment, that is important. So you forgive yourself for something you did in the past so you can live in the now and live in the moment. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but sometimes I think it's a continual learning lesson.
Why should you have to learn the same lesson twice?
Because things come in layers. You know, sometimes things are layers, and I'm not the same person now that I was 5 months ago or yesterday.
What's that got to do with forgiveness?
Because it comes in layers, and you have different understandings about the situation, and you might have forgiven them, but maybe you didn't totally forgive them.
No, you're talking about forgiving yourself. We're now on to forgiving yourself.
Oh, yeah, forgiving myself. Okay, so maybe you forgave yourself, but not really. That makes sense. You might have thought you did, but the emotions.
That's because you're living in the past.
The emotions can come back again, exactly. So.
Didn't I talk about that 2 weeks ago?
Yeah.
I said never when you relive something you did in the past that embarrassed you. It's like doing it over again.
Yeah.
Because the mind can't distinguish.
Exactly. Well, that's why I said it's harder to forgive yourself. It's not that easy all the time.
It's as easy as you want it to be. If you want to make it difficult, you make it difficult. We have control. Yeah. You have control over your own mind. No one else controls your mind. You control your mind controls your body controls your thoughts, it controls your actions. They're all interrelated. By the way, there's something else I want to say. I went to 2 churches when I was back in Boston for that wake, and something that really made me feel good, there wasn't one cross in the church of Joshua on the cross. You know, most Catholic churches show Joshua on the cross. Mm-hmm. Literally, things are changing within the church, which I think is so positive. In both churches, the only cross there was on the real colored stained glass windows, of just a crucifix by itself. There wasn't one cross of Joshua being on the cross.
Yeah, that's great. I
think that is such an important, because how many times you walked into a Catholic church or a church and saw they have a picture of a plastic Joshua,
yeah,
or a statue of Joshua on the cross,
yeah,
dying. In both churches I went to, there wasn't one cross of Joshua on the crucifix. I think that is such a major advancement, and I hope, I don't know if it has to do with the new Pope. Are they just doing that in new churches as they're building new churches or remodeling them? But I just think it's
So what is the cross representing now?
I think this represents Christianity and believing in Joshua. I don't think it has anything to do with the crucifixion. She and I discussed it over lunch. She disagrees with me. She thinks the cross, when a person wears a cross on their neck, she thinks the cross represents the crucifixion. I think it represents the fact that they believe in Joshua. They believe in the Christian religion. I'd like to get. Would you do me a favor, because we really and truly don't have an agreement on this. Would you please post on the site what the cross represents to you, the crucifixion, when you see it on someone's neck, wearing a necklace with a crucifixion? What does it represent to you? Do you think of Joshua dying on the cross and being crucified? Or do you think of it meaning that they acknowledge that they're a Christian and they believe in his teachings? I really got to get the opinion.
But the Christian teachings are based on the crucifixion. That's the question. Have the teachings changed?
Well, no, but I'm saying that's not why they're wearing the cross. I'm not saying I'm wearing the cross because I believe that he got crucified, and it's a symbol for the crucifixion. I believe it's a symbol for saying that I am a Christian. Let's just drop it there. They understand what I'm saying.
Okay, I won't go any.
Let's go into prayer. This is going to be powerful. Dear Lord, I want to thank you for so many opportunities. The opportunity you've given me to meet later this month of April with Joshua and Maitreya and 2 other entities that'll be with them. And you're allowing me to do it at a time when I'm not going to miss my Sunday show because the 4 days I'll spend with them do not come on a weekend, but are 4 weekdays. Dear Lord, I thank you for giving me this opportunity to meet with them. And my heart and soul is open to receive the information that he's going to share with them during those 4 days, of which you only allowed me to share that when I'm leaving with several people. I even cannot tell Taliad or Miriana until I come back. And I don't know what the reason is, but I accept it because you have been very adamant in saying I can only tell 3 people, in which I've told those 3. But dear Lord, I'm so grateful because I know that it's part of the great tomorrow. I know you're giving me the ability to make the movies of the commitment and the messengers, just those 2. And neither of those are critical of the church. In the commitment, it does not mention the Catholic Church because the Catholic Church does not exist yet. And in the message, it does not mention the Catholic Church because it goes back 2,000 years ago before the church existed. And you've told me those are the only 2 books that you want to make movies because the story is so real, and they do not criticize the church because the church did not exist yet. And you've asked me not to criticize the church, and I'm not. I said instead I see great improvements being made in the church. Even the fact that the church no longer has a statue of Joshua in the 2 churches I visited. And I will not criticize the church anymore. Instead, I will commend it for the things it does right and help in correcting that which it does wrong and be able to have them distinguish between the 2. But dear Lord, thank you so much for the opportunity to be with Joshua. So many things have happened for the great tomorrow. You've given me the ability to fund the great tomorrow. and to be able to see the great tomorrow become a reality with zone headquarters here in Lake Oswego. Tamian, I think you might be the only one who knows what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
At any rate, you've also given me the ability to fund the movies and a documentary. And you're going to share more information about that when I'm with you in San Diego. For I realize that all of this is part of your plan of our mission for the great tomorrow. Dear Lord, Tamian, can you feel the energy?
Oh, yeah.
Dear Lord, as I put my energy under Tamian, let it also go through to every person on this site that's in need of a healing. Whether the healing be emotional, whether it be physical, whether it be a sickness or a disease, or an injury to their body, or something within them that needs to be healed, whether it's an attitude or injury to the body, or a disease or sickness within. Dear God, with all your love and mercy, we ask that you send your love and your energy onto people, your children, no matter where they are over the world. To our beloved brother Qurbana, who I believe is in Kenya, to Mariana in Australia, to our friends in New Zealand, to all of our friends all over Canada and all over the United States, to our friends in Europe, no matter where they are, in France, to Katrina in California, in Miami, in Bonnie, I don't know where she lives, but I know she, yes, in California, but I can't remember the town, outside of, above, near Sacramento, and Jorge, in Palo Alto. To all our brothers and sisters, and to Linda, all the way in Massachusetts, along the North Shore near the New Hampshire border. May this energy reach every one of you and all of the children. And may you have peace of heart, even if you don't have a need for healing physically or emotionally, just have peace of heart. May this energy give every one of you peace of heart. Every one of us, even if we don't have a need for sickness healing, can always accept peace of heart. And may you have peace of heart right now as this energy reaches you. Every one of you feel inside your heart peacefulness, a serenity, and enjoyment that you know that God has touched your heart and touched your soul and sent you his love. I want you to post on the site whether you felt peace in your heart as we close. And I will be here next Sunday. And Tammy will too. And it's Easter Sunday. Tammy, I can't have lunch with you because I'm having lunch with my family. But we can do the show together. Even though we're not quite sure what Easter represents, because Joshua never died on the cross, so it can't represent his death, because all he had was a transition of a soul. And he couldn't have ascended because he never left us. So Tammy and I both are a little confused understanding what Easter is, but I'll try to do some research on how the Christians think of Easter, whether it represents the ascension or some other factor. But we will have an Easter service next Sunday. And if you can't join us with it, you can always watch it in the archive. I want you to know how much we love you. Dear God, thank you for sending this energy of calmness and peace into the hearts of our brothers and sisters. And in return, I ask you for one favor that you post on the site, whether indeed you felt that peacefulness, that serenity, that calmness in your heart of God's energy in the last part of the show. So God bless you. God bless every one of you. There's one other thing. No, that's all I'm going to tell you right now. God bless you till next Sunday. Enjoy your journey and live in the now and live in the moment. I'll say goodbye to you right now, even though we're a little early, 5 minutes early. Goodbye.